Welcome to the Confessions of a Group X Instructor podcast. For group exercise junkies and enthusiastic classgoers, we'll explore and uncover authentic, thought-provoking, and heartwarming industry education and inspiration from entertaining, badass fitness pros. And now your host, creator of Warrior Rhythm, Warrior Strength, Warrior Combat, Warrior Revolution, and Warrior Kids Group fitness brands, Ellen DeWord. Here we grow. Welcome, everybody, to Confessions of a Group X Instructor podcast. You get a solo episode with me today. I'm about to hit the road for like a month. In fact, when you hear this episode, I will be on the road. I'm going to DC next week, and then I'm going to Philadelphia. And then I'm going to Toronto, and then I'm coming home for a hot second before heading off to Dallas. So we are hitting the conference circuit hard this summer. So anyway, I'm just getting back from IDEA. I still have luggage unpacked. I kind of leave a certain suitcase like permanently packed. So packing is, it's become pretty simple, pretty turnkey. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about cueing like a boss, allowing people to feel safe, successful, and special. Cueing is the most important skill, in my opinion. It is more important than anything. It's more important than how you look, how fit you are, how many degrees you have. It's more important than your form and technique. It's the most important thing. It is as important as communication is in a relationship. Good communication makes for the making of a healthy relationship. And communication is I was just getting a phone call from my best friend, and she can hack into, she set up my phone, which is connected to my computer, which I'm podcasting on with you. She set it up so that her calls break through everything that I'm doing. And I neglected to tell her I was going to be podcasting. So anywho, I was saying that communication is the most important thing, and without it, we can't be awesome at this thing that we love so much. So we're going to take time today to really dive into all of my best practices. I have extrapolated every little shred and smithereen that I can out of my 24 years of teaching, things I have learned from all over about cueing, and things I've certainly learned from trial and error and just teaching 5 million classes. That's the best education we have, is what we've seen work and seen not work. So first, I'm going to start by saying that being a good cuer is like the same thing as being the conductor in a symphony. I'm going to give you a practical example of how important it is. I had a complaint come in once when I was directing about an instructor that the member said was teaching too fast. Now, at that time, we were both teaching, the instructor that received the complaint and I were both teaching the same format. And I happen to teach that format as fast and furious as you possibly can. I taught it without breaks. I taught it without stopping. This music, we had the freedom, I should explain. We had the freedom within that particular format to take things from a 32 count to a 16 count to an 8 count. In other words, from slow to medium to fast. And I was that instructor that always took my class to the fast, always 100% of the time. And so when I received this complaint, I was like, that doesn't make sense. Because the person complaining also took my class, and she was like, this other teaches it so much faster than you. It's too fast. And I was like, there's just no way she's teaching faster than me, because you can't do that. It's not possible. So I went and evaluated this instructor, and come to find out, I just had to dismiss a call from my bestie again. She's double dialing me. Come to find out, she just was queuing late. That was the only thing. And the member didn't know that, didn't understand that, isn't counting. Why would they be? But in the member's experience, it felt probably rushed and probably felt like a frenetic pace trying to get into one move or pose before the next, And she felt unsuccessful, and she was describing it to me as this instructor is teaching too fast, when I really was able to diagnose the problem was not the speed of the class, it was the timing of the cues. So that's a little example to give you of how important it is and how it affects people's experience. Part of the title of this episode is allowing people to feel safe, successful, and special. And that is sequential. It is important in that order. The very most important thing, if we were to rank them, is people feeling safe. Safe actually has two kind of connotations here. One is safety in terms of, are they going to injure themselves? Are you cueing safety cues for them with variations of each move that will work for their body so that they don't get hurt? That's one meaning of safe here. That's the highest meaning in this case of what is most important, is that we are not hurting people. Number one. Safe also means, in terms of allowing people to feel safe, successful, and special, safe also means that you're creating a safe space, which is in part related to their physical safety, not injuring themselves, but it's also a psychological, emotional thing that we're trying to create in them as well in terms of safety. i.e., are we creating a safe space? A safe space where they feel like they belong, where they feel like they're not judged, where they feel like they're accepted. They can just be themselves. They don't have to be fit. They don't have to be motivated. They don't have to be cute that day. They don't have to be, they don't have to have their life put together. They can just be themselves. So when I say safe, I'm talking about both of those meanings. They're sort of interrelated to each other. After safety, and somewhat obliquely related as well, is, do they feel successful? Do they feel like they did well? Because no one enjoys things that they're not good at. No one enjoys feeling humiliated or humbled by an experience, or frustrated because they're having to think too much, or embarrassed because they went the wrong way, or they didn't get off the floor fast enough, or they couldn't get down to the floor. Like, no one wants to feel unsuccessful. So are we cueing in a way that sets them up to feel like champs, even if they're not really good, you know? And then finally, and lastly, in the order of safe, successful, special, is, are we making them feel special and cared about and noticed? Each person who comes to your class is so special, special in their own right, because human beings are unique and quirky and beautiful and amazing. But they're special to you. Like they're supporting you, even if it's their first time visiting your class. Are we making them feel like we noticed, we took note? Sometimes all that takes is a smile or a wink or a kind word. Like, be honest. When you get in a hurry and a hustle and bustle of your day and you have to teach and you've got stuff going on, do you ever let people come into your class and leave without talking to them? Without noticing that they showed up? And I guess some of you teaching might be in extraordinary circumstances where you teach at a university and have 100 people in your classes, and it's maybe impossible to like have a touch point with each person. But for the most of us, we're teaching classes with, I don't know, out there listening, probably 7 to 50 people in your classrooms. Probably averages more like 15, 25. There's time. There's time in there to connect. Okay, so people learn differently, different styles. We have our visual learners, and they're going to learn by seeing. We have our auditory learners that learn by hearing. And then we have our kinesthetic learners that learn by actually doing. So let me quickly break those down, and then let's get into the meat and potatoes. Let's get into the big takeaways. Let's get into the practical, applicable tips today. So auditory learners, is that what I started with? I feel like I started with visual. I started with visual. Visual learners, these guys learn from like hand signals, like maybe you're counting down, so you have fingers in the air and you're pulling your fingers down as you're counting down. Or maybe you're saying from the top of a sequence, so you tap the top of your head. Or maybe you're going to do a lateral lunge to your right and you're facing your class, so you tap your left leg. Or you point over to the left to indicate that they're going to lunge to the right. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. All my mirror instructors out there, the tapping of the leg, the gesticulating with your hands. This is a powerful way to cue, and it's nonverbal. It's so powerful. So many people are wired visually that if you say the wrong thing, like let's say you say reverse lunge, but you do a lateral lunge, your class, 99% of them will do the lateral lunge. They will do what they saw with their eyes. They will do what they see rather than what they heard. That's how you know it's a visual learner, when you say the wrong move, which, we all do. The auditory learner is the one person in your class right there that actually did the reverse lunge. They are auditory. Those people are learning by what they hear. They're really like honed in on your words. Your kinesthetic learners learn by doing and feeling it in their bodies. And this is a lot of us as well. And I think a lot of fitness people, because we're physical in our bodies, and we have a lot of kinesthetic awareness typically, So I think this is a lot of us as fit pros, and I think it's a lot of the people in our classrooms are very kinesthetic. They're very in their bodies. And so they learn by feeling the actual sensations while doing. I like to think about this as like someone can tell me all day long how to like operate something on my computer, like a new software or something. They can like tell me all day, a million times, and I will not know how to do it. They can walk away and I can try to do it by myself, and I can't. But if while they're teaching me, they have me actually do it. Click this button, go here now, scroll down on this drop down and select this option. If they're walking me through the steps and I'm doing it in my body with my fingertips through my computer, then I will learn it forever. It's in there. I learned it. So just know that these learning styles, first of all, they're not like total silos. Like we do have the capacity to have multiple learning styles within each of us. And we do all learn with each of these ways. We just tend to be like maybe more heavily oriented towards one style. And it's important that we know that as instructors and that we revisit that thought if it's been a while since we thought about it, because it helps us cue better if we are aware that people have different styles of learning so that we can be like multilingual in our cueing approach, so that when you script and think about how to cue your choreography or your classes, you're thinking about, how do I do this for someone this style? Similarly, like think about personality assessments, DISC assessments, those things, those types of personality things that you've probably seen or experienced in your life. People have like different temperaments and obviously like personalities. And while we can't be all things to all people, and we can't have everyone in the world love us because we're also unique and weird and quirky, oddball humans, we certainly want to try our best to be likable to the majority of people that walk through our doors. And so taking into account that some people are going to like a story, but not a long-winded story. Some people are going to maybe not mind if you start 30 seconds late, while other people will lose respect for you right away and feel like you're disrespecting them if you start 30 seconds late. Just thinking about the different styles of temperaments in the room. Okay, so all those things help us become better cuers. So the auditory learner, like I said, is learning by hearing. So visual, I gave hand signals. Auditory would be like if you say things like feet hip width apart, doot, doot, like, you're just selectively using your word choice. Kinesthetic, we already talked about, is doing it in your body. All right. So in the warrior world, I, as part of our curriculum through our training day, have called our cueing process 3D cueing, three-dimensional, 3D, because we want to be like three-dimensional, multi-textured. We don't want to be monotone, boring cuers that are very like surface level or one-dimensional. We want to have lots of layers and texture and juiciness and goodness to the way we cue our classes. And I call that 3D cueing, three-dimensional. And those Ds actually stand for something. So it's define, describe, and deepen. And define is like where a lot of like new instructors live. And I don't say there's nothing wrong with that. We were all new instructors at one point. New instructors usually start, as they should, by just like cueing the name of the move. Because, it's a lot to learn it's rocket science teaching your fitness classes. It's rocket science. And so there's so many layers that go into every second of what we do while we have that mic on our head. And when we're brand new, like we aren't able to juggle all those things in the air at one time. But we can name the move and like do it in time. And then because of the order and the sequence, remember, safety is successful and making people feel special. Right away, we need to, as soon as like a new instructor, as soon as we cue the move, we need to say, how do we do it safely? In other words, maybe provide some modification options. Maybe provide some progression options. We need to give them like variety. How can they do it in their body? That needs to come out right away. Safety, alignment. Remember, keeping them safe is paramount. So this is in our describe D. So define is just name the move and then boom, describe. What do they need to do to be safe and successful? And then finally, our third D in our 3Ds for warrior cueing is deepen. And this is the highest level of cueing where maybe you're talking, wait, let me go back to describe. I forgot one element of describe. In addition to the safety issues and the alignment issues and the options, there also potentially like the benefits of, like maybe the benefits of the move, what they should be feeling, what they should be experiencing, how it's going to benefit them. Okay, now deepen, the last one. This is the highest level, and this is where we are actually making a true, genuine connection with our students, with who we are, with our personality. Deepen means we're deepening a connection to each student and to the students collectively. Maybe it's because we're funny. Maybe we're telling jokes. Maybe it's because we're inspiring them. Maybe with something emotional. Maybe tapping into a lyric of a song or a moment. Harnessing some flow state. Deepen. That's our third D. So let me go back to what I said about new instructors will often just name the move. Ultimately, this is how I was taught to lead, is name the move first. And I just wanted to make a small little asterisk, little caveat there and revisit it before I dig into my pro tips for you today. And say, can you hear the airplanes? There are a lot of airplanes overhead right now. So I don't think it's always ideal to name the move first, depending on the modality. And in particular, like yoga style. Sometimes I think it is best to cue how to get into the move and then name it. So for example, if you're in a low lunge and the next move is cow face, and maybe you have people that have no idea how to get into cow face, like how to make that transition or what cow face is, actually cueing them, like if they're in like a low lunge, like drop the back knee. Now rotate towards, the right side of the room. Have a seat, da 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 da, cueing them into their alignment. Sits bones rooted, long spine, chest open. And then naming the move. Sometimes it's better to cue them into it and then name it. Like if another example would be if they're in like standing splits, otherwise known as 3-point balance. A great way to begin the cue would be, lift the left hand, start to revolve or spiral open through your rib cage, stacking your hips, stacking your shoulders, looking up at that top arm. This is half moon, Okay, pro tips for you today. If it's a music-driven format and it's musical, then cueing between beats 5 and 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now it's time to cue, to quote Chalene Johnson. It's that whole conductor of the symphony thing. Or I like to use the analogy of a quarterback to a receiver. That pass has to be thrown impeccably, perfectly in front of them, not too far in front of them and not behind them, so that they don't have to break stride. They don't have to quick speed up and grab it, which feels frenetic, or they don't have to like pump the brakes and back up and back pedal and stop all the momentum and go back and, feel like they're tripping over their feet and grab it. A perfectly thrown football from a quarterback to a receiver. That receiver is full stride, in their stride, they're going, and it just they open up their hands out in front of them, and the ball lands right in it. That's what we want. That's exactly the perfect analogy for a well-timed cue. Sometimes that cue does need to start on the 5, especially if you're saying a few words together. Lateral lunge to the left. That would need to start on the 5. But if the cue is squats and they already know it's coming and they've already done it a few times, like you're doing some choreography that's repeating, for example, and all they need to do is go from, let's say, lunges to squats, you can literally wait till the 7 and you're putting the football right in their hands at the right time to hit the 1 at the top of the next phrase. So those are some pro tips for cueing and timing. Now, if your format is not music driven, you should still use the music. One of our formats is not music driven at all, and that is Warrior Strength. We do the entire class with an amazing playlist, very motivating, very inspiring playlist, but we're not moving to it. But the music still has these powerful highs and lows, choruses and beat drops and bridges. And I just got another phone call. Okay, I better wrap it up. Um, and I still use those highs and lows in the song to cue motivation, to be like, woo woo, or whatever I want to do to motivate, or to cue form and technique. I'm still using um, the ebbs and flows in the music. Okay. Intonation. This is varying your vocal intensity, pitch, and volume to match the song's vibe. Pitch and volume are different. Pitch is low to high, low to high. And most of us tend to be high pitched, especially women, especially when we're nervous or just adrenalized, excited, endorphinized because we're exercising and we love it. Those things tend to bring us into a higher register. Higher registers are harder to hear, and they are also less pleasing to the ears. So you do want to vary high to low, but you always want to keep rerouting yourself in the lower register of your voice. This is something, if you know me, you've heard me talk about before. It's something I've worked very, very, very hard on because I naturally have an incredibly annoying voice. And I have had to work very hard at making my voice soothing and appealing. Um, and it does take practice. The volume of your voice should vary. There's almost nothing more powerful that you can do in terms of commanding a room than softening your voice. Rein it in. Step into mountain pose. And then to take that to the let's go team, like to take them on this journey with the best instrument in your body, which is your voice. I once did give an instructor feedback as a sort of example here that I thought that they were doing great things with their voice in terms of the roller coaster ride, pitch and volume, but I thought it was incongruent with the music. So I didn't think it matched the vibe or the essence at all at certain times of the class anyway. So it felt like incongruent is the best way I can describe it, or out of harmony with the song itself. So match the intention of the song. If the song is big beat, big energy, then your voice should be big energy, loud and higher pitched. And if the song is softer, and hopefully your playlists are giving you a variety like that, because if they all sound the same, if all the playlists all sound the same, yeah, it's not so easy to do the beautiful roller coaster of your voice when the music isn't giving you some beautiful roller coasters. So I hope you're getting that. Use of a microphone is super important because it allows you to do that. If you don't have a microphone, you have to shout the whole time, and you pretty much stay at one vocal intensity and one volume, and it's one dimensional. It's very monotone, to be honest, and it's grating on the nerves, and it's boring. It becomes white noise real quick. So a microphone allows you to modulate even in yoga. And I know microphones are like not popular in a lot of yoga spaces, but I push back on that because a microphone allows me to have the softest, quietest, most beautiful, most gentle version of my voice. And so I actually am a fan of a microphone for a yoga class. Inclusive language that makes people feel welcome, language that includes you in it with them. Instead of saying that and you, that like that knee, that chest, those hips, that butt, say our. Let's let and our and let's and us and we. Be in the second person with them. Let's lift our chest and drop our hips down is so much better than drop that butt, lift that chest. It makes a difference. Similarly, positive cueing, framing everything you have to say, even if it's corrective instruction to the group, in a positive way. So avoiding at all costs words like don't. Don't is a word that instructors tend to grab onto because we know that our job is to correct form and technique. And so it's easy to fall into the trap of negative cueing without even meaning to, without even realizing that it's creating an environment, it's creating a culture, it's creating an atmosphere that we don't want to create in our classroom. So rather than saying, don't let the knees go over the toes, say, let's shift our weight back into our glutes. Lift the chest, lift our chest. And let's feel that in our glutes a little bit more here, not so much in the front of our knees. See the difference that makes? Anticipatory cues. Anticipatory cues is allowing them to know what's coming and when. This is in the micro and on the macro. So in the micro, it means you're letting them know that they're doing, jumping jacks and that high knees are next. High knees are on deck. Or you're letting them know an example from our warrior combat class. We always do boxing combinations, followed by a section for athletic conditioning, followed by a section for core. So like talking about that flow is letting them anticipate. It's managing their expectations for what's coming, letting them know like, we're almost out of our head with this boxing combination. Get ready. We're going to go into our heart and lungs. Conditioning is next. You can do it on the big picture for chunks of class, the full hour. You can do it minute by minute, but we should be helping them manage their expectations as we go. Anticipatory cueing. Nonverbal cues, I kind of touched on when I talked about the 3 different learning styles. Those nonverbals, hands in the air, turning sideways, showing form, going out into the room, showing different angles. Lots of ways we can non-verbally cue. And what is a better cue, nonverbal cue, than the biggest smile in the world on your face? I'm almost finished. Let me wrap it up with 3 more. Creative verbiage. So sit down and script out some new verbs. Think of some verbs you've never heard another instructor ever use. And write them into your choreography, like write them into your script. Put them in your repertoire of phrases and words, some new verbs, some new metaphors, think of something that's like unique to you. Like I remember talking about syrup dripping on the pancake. And I went with that for months. I'm still talking about drizzling drizzle your fingertips. Like I'm still using the syrupy kind of breakfasty pancakey language in my classes. So think of some metaphors and some new words, freshen it up. Avoiding verbal tics, like let's go, or all right, or nice, or ooh, ooh. What are your verbal tics? Record yourself, listen back, then you'll know. Because we don't know. It's like being tone deaf and not knowing you don't sound good when you sing because you don't know. You can't hear it. You're tone deaf. So our verbal tics, sometimes we're just unaware. Sometimes we know. Like sometimes I'm teaching and I'm like, oh my gosh, I keep saying the same thing over and over. I've said it 40 times in today's class. Like I'm aware. But sometimes we are like not aware of our little verbal tics. So the best way to catch them is recording yourself. And then finally and lastly, be unapologetic. We all cue imperfectly, probably every time we teach a class. We say the wrong thing or we cue the wrong move. And this is not the place for apology. It's not the place to own our mistakes. Life is, life definitely, but not so much your class. Let it go, try to correct it, try to fix it, or if it's obvious, joke about it, make light about it, but don't apologize. This is one place we don't want to say I'm sorry in life because it has a discrediting effect on us. So my pro tips, cue between the 5 and the 8, If your format is not musical, still use the powerful punctuation points in the song. Intonate your voice like a big roller coaster. Be congruent with the song's energy. Lower the pitch of your voice. Use a microphone. Use inclusive language. Frame things in positive ways. Incorporate anticipatory cues, nonverbal cues, creative, original, unique verbiage that you thought of out of your own beautiful brain. Avoid verbal tics and be unapologetic. All right, team. Thank you so much for tuning in for this lesson. I will be on the road gallivanting around the country and beyond when you hear this lesson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please share this episode and rate the show and give us some love and help us grow and reach more instructors everywhere. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining in on the Confessions of a Group X Instructor podcast. If you're interested in becoming a warrior instructor, go to warriorinstructors.com. But if you want more and found this episode amazing, please give us a rating. And with a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to our next episode. So remember, be brave, be bold, be blessed. And above all, listen, learn, love.